Hello everyone, welcome to another doll customizing video with me Akin. Before we start, shout out to my coffee members. Sin Belops, Ruby Rouge, Warren G, Mel, Awkward Burb, Invisible Bear, Mel Again, Hanu Made This, Star with the Emoji, Jasmine, and Johnny Wonderland. Thank you so much for your support, I really appreciate it. If you want to help me bring more doll customizing videos, consider becoming a coffee member. You'll also get to know what I'm working on before the video is out. Link is in the description. So some time ago, I watched Kanakamui's video by Moonlight Jewel from years ago where she tore apart a doll and made it smaller, and I want to do something like that. I don't know if it's a good idea to upload a video only a couple of days before Christmas, and this doll won't even be Christmas themed, but well, I want to squeeze this one in before the year ends, so yeah, let's begin the customization. For the base, at first I thought of using Draculora because she has the closest skin tone to what I want, but after further inspection we got Twyla here. Twyla's body is shorter, her shoulders are more narrow, and her feet are smaller. She has more pros than Draculora, so I'm set on using a Twyla's body as the base, but we can't use this one. It's a second hand and the hip joints are basically gone. Luckily, I found this for $15. She's part of my doll haul a couple months back. Let's unbox her real quick. Do you want Monster High collectors? Eat your heart out. More often than not, the dolls I purchased that were still in boxes like this one had this not for sale label, and from the information I got, some dolls were given to the Mattel workers, so technically these were leftovers from the production. It's quite manageable to find these dolls here in Indonesia at affordable prices. Lucky me. The right hip is already a little loose. If you have Twyla dolls, let me know if it's a common problem. I also switch out her hands with Spectrise because the joints are wide. Oh my god, am I racist? I put the doll in a plastic pocket and put it in hot water so the hair won't get wet. Take out the doll after about a minute, the head becomes squishy and we can yank it off the body. This is kinda ironic because if you follow me on Instagram, I hunted Twyla's heads for quite some time only for me to use her body first. For the head, I wanna use this Madeline header. Someone was selling this loosely. It has an open mouth smile and it's slightly smaller than regular Ever After High heads. Let's trim the hair as close to the scalp as possible. Submerge the head in hot water to make scraping the remaining stubble easier. I'm attaching the head to the body to test it out because some Ever After High heads are wobbly on Monster High bodies. It attaches properly, so let's remove it again. Remove the factory paint with pure acetone. Clean the head with wet wipes. The face is slightly stained and there's like slashes on it. It looked like someone was playing with a knife on it, but let's put it aside because we're going to work on the body first. First, I sand the whole body with a soft sanding sponge to roughen up the surface and get rid of the gray designs. Then I wipe off the dust with wet wipes. This lilac skin tone looks really nice, too bad I won't keep it that way. Someday I'll make a doll with purple skin. Someday. Anyway, here I'm marking how much I want to trim. Here's how much I'm planning to take out. In total, she's gonna be around 2 cm shorter than the little sister body. I don't want to go too crazy because I'm scared of breaking the joints. I also mark left, right, and front because we don't want to lose tracks on those parts, do we? Let's bust out the rotary tool. I start by sanding down the breasts. They're not in the right position when we're done with the body modification. Now we can tear the body apart. I don't know why they made the neck so long, that's why I'm shortening it. The forearms are made out of hard vinyl, which is a pretty slippery material, so I have to finish the job with flash cutters and an X-Acto knife. The parts should align straight with each other, and to achieve that we have to cut down some more material, like the torso here for example. Now this is more like it. By doing this, I'm also fixing the sway back look. Let's shorten the legs. I think this is my first time actually tearing apart a girl doll, and I didn't know the lower legs are solid. I have to use a hacksaw to finish cutting them. There is too much gaps between the lower legs, and to fix that I'm gonna make the edges beveled so when we conceal them later with epoxy, the surface will be even without adding thickness. Kinda like this. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I also sand the bases to make them nice and flat. Here's what the body looks like in pieces. We can start putting them back together. Let's start with the neck and the upper torso. I drill a hole in the bottom of the neck, but be careful, you don't want to drill all the way through the neck peg. Just make the hole deep enough so an acrylic rod will be stuck in it. Then I trim the acrylic rod that is long enough so it goes all the way through the upper torso. Basically, the acrylic rod is the new spine. Some of you asked what brand of epoxy I use. It's called OOAK. I think it's an Indonesian local product, so I'm not sure if that helps anyone. Let's mix equal parts of A and B to start sculpting. I apply a bit of epoxy into the bottom of the neck, stick the acrylic rod in it, place the upper torso, and fill its cavity. This part is tricky because the acrylic rod moves around, but I try my best to keep it straight and centered. I also fill in the cavities in the lower torso, thighs, upper and lower legs. After the epoxy has cured, I shave all the bases to make them flat. Then I drill a hole in the middle of the lower torso base so we can plug the upper torso to it. It should look something like this. The gap of the back is quite big. Let's fix that real quick by sanding it down so the slope will look more natural. See, now the edges are aligned. I install the connectors to the legs, same way we did the torso. I bevel all the edges so again we won't add so much thickness when we conceal the gaps. We can't use acrylic rods as connectors for the forearms because they are too thin, so I use strong rigid stainless wires instead. Here I'm trying to put the pieces back together with only epoxy, but they feel really unstable. Everything is wobbling around. So I get rid of all the fresh epoxy. To put all the parts back together, I superglue them. I match up the seam lines between the corresponding parts to make sure they're being reassembled correctly. The body is now back in one piece. The bond feels really strong. Am I becoming a fan of superglue? Now we can apply fresh epoxy to all the seams and gaps to conceal them. I managed to do all this in one go because the body is already in one piece. It's really time efficient, thanks superglue. After those parts cured, I can begin restoring the torso. We're done sculpting and now we move on to sanding. I do what I usually do. I start with a 240 grit sandpaper to take out large bumps and make the surface even. While I'm at it, I also erase the molded underwear. Here's how much 240 grit sandpaper I use for the first step of sanding. The second step of sanding is to use 3M fine sanding sponge to smoothen the surface. Here's how much fine sanding sponge I use, and that's pretty much it for the sanding. We can rinse the body now. The body isn't flawless, the right leg is longer than the left one. Am I gonna do something about it? No. Unsolicited advice: if you're new to modifying doll bodies and you're a perfectionist, stop. It won't work in your favor and all it will do is hold you back. If it's good enough, take it. Never aim for perfection. I'm just gonna bend the knee like this and pass it as a pose. You wouldn't have known if I didn't tell you. I bought skin tone acrylic paint. They come in tubs now apparently. Let's mix paint for the color matching. I separate some of the paint into another container and add more water to the new mixture because I'm gonna use my airbrush for the application. I'm gonna try this plastic adhesion promoter by Duplicolor for the primer. I'm gonna apply 2 coats of this stuff to the body. It says on the can, apply top coat, in my case, paint, within 10 minutes of last adhesion promoter coat. What am I, the Flash? I can't work that fast, but I try to follow the instruction the best I can. Bless his heart, he doesn't know what he's about to go through. Surprise, surprise, my airbrush is being a total asshole. The paint comes out, but it's so inconsistent. Sometimes it only sprays water without the pigment. I don't even know how that's possible. At this point, I don't even know if I'll ever use my airbrush again. So I wipe off the paint. Then I try to apply the paint again with brushes this time. I work on a sheet of packaging foam to prevent scratching the body while painting it. After the 4th layer of paint, it appears the color still won't build up. And I just realized I had been using paint that I mixed for the airbrush, which is very diluted. Of course, it would take forever to build up the color. So I wipe off the paint. Again. I try to paint the body again with the not so diluted paint this time. After the 5th layer, the color is still not building up as well as I expected. Normally, we should get somewhere after like the 3rd layer. What the fuck is going on? What I'm suspecting is that when I wipe off the paint, it did something to the primer. Also, we're going from darker to lighter here, so that can also be a problem, I think. So I wipe off the paint. Again! I am so done with getting fucked over by simple things. I mean, painting a doll body, what a concept. This is the price I have to pay because the body modification went so well, isn't it? Here I'm sanding the body to kinda erase the primer. It would be so nice to have transparent primer that actually works, but it looks like I don't deserve that. I decided to change gears and bought this big tub of white gesso. If this still doesn't work, I'm ready to cancel this project. Let's apply 2 layers. Now the body is uniform-ish in color, so the paint shouldn't have any reason to be patchy, otherwise I will lose my shit. Let's begin applying it. After 2 layers of gesso and 6 layers of paint, that's 8 layers in total. If 6 layers is pushing it, 8 layers is asking for it. The brush strokes are horrid and I just know the paint will get scratched off here and there and I'm not gonna do anything about it. Anyway, let's seal the paint with 2 coats of this matte top coat. There is so much dust, dirt, and even hair got stuck on the body after I sealed it, and there's already a scratch on the right forearm. OMG. But you know what they say, if you have to go through hell, keep going. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Let's do body blushing before spraying it again with the matte top coat twice. It turned out to be one of my best body blushing. We're done with the body. Thank God, what an awful experience. Moving on to the head, with how horrible painting the body was, I don't want to work with a head with defects. Mainly because I don't want to also paint it, which could have fixed the problem. Luckily enough, I found another Madeline Hatter head with the same head sculpt, but it's from a different line because the hair and the makeup are different. It's in a better condition, so let's use this one instead. I prepped the new head already and attached it to the body. Painting the body pissed me off so much, but at least I aced the color matching. Before we get into the face up, remember in my last video I complained about MSC making my doll's face shimmery? Stitch Week Creations posted something very insightful on Instagram. It's cold in her area, so she warms up the MSC can before using it to prevent making her doll shiny. It rained all the time when I was working on this doll and the doll before, so the temperature was lower than ideal. Since I don't have boobs, I put my cans of MSC in my camera bag where it's padded, so it should raise the surrounding temperature. Let's see if this makes any difference. I covered the body in plastic before spraying the head with 3 initial layers of MSC, waiting 30 minutes in between layers. Like usual, I start with initial blushing using soft pastels, pink on the cheeks and a bit on the nose, chin, forehead, and light brown on the eye areas. I also colored the lips and I sprayed another layer of MSC. There is dirt stuck right on the nose. One of the huge benefits working on an unpainted head is that you can just clean any dirt that gets stuck on the face. You can try wiping it off or even sanding it down without worrying the original skin tone will show through because you are working right on the original surface. Also, I don't think we talk enough about debris, dust, and dirt that gets stuck on the doll's face after applying MSC on it. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens pretty often, especially when you spray it outside, at least in my experience. Enough yapping. With a light brown watercolor pencil, I sketch the eyes. I want them to be big. Then I start laying down the colors, white for the scleras, and for the irises, use the lightest value of the eye color that you want to initially fill them in. By doing this, shading the eyes later will be easier. I intensify the blushing, just a little bit. Map the eyebrows, they're purple because the hair will also be purple. Another layer of MSC, and from now on it's mostly about building up the colors and shading. Here I'm darkening the top eyelens just so we can see the eye shapes clearer. Let's hatch the eyebrows. I also bought this sanding block so my pencils can be really sharp. Can't just buy one thing from the art supply store, right? Then I sketch the eyelashes. And the pupils. I continue building up the colors until they're opaque. I start using the black watercolor pencil to really define the eyelines, lashes, and pupils. Brighten up the bottom parts of the irises a little bit more. Finally, we can dot on the eye shines. We're done with the face up after 8 layers of MSC with no gloss, no shimmer, just matte. Thank you so much for the tips, Stitch Week Creations. I don't think it's my best face up, but I don't hate it at all. I like the face up, it just reminds me of...
Is there anything else that you might like?
For the hair, I already prepared the wefts. The eyebrows are more magenta, but the hair wefts are more violet. Let's not worry about that. I mark a square there on the crown of the head because I want to do a half up, half down hairstyle. The square is for the up part, but we're gonna do the down part first, starting from the back. Work your way up until you get close to the mark. Then glue wefts around the mark but in the opposite direction, and when I'm about to do that...
Oh fuck! Anjing! Goblok.
Some Uhu glue got on the right temple, and when I cleaned it, it took out a tiny bit of the eyebrow. This fucking project. Well, she got an eyebrow slit going on now. Then I glue another row of wefts between the part wefts and the rest. Using a heated flat metal tool, I press down the part wefts. We can start working on the up part now, starting with the part wefts. Make sure they're flush with the down part wefts. We got a square bald spot now, all we have to do is fill it up. After the glue dried, the scalp is now fully covered and it looks like this. With small elastics, I tie the back and side parts together to form a ponytail. Then tie the front part to the rest. This is to make sure the ponytail is nice and tight. I bind matching color thread under the elastics. Cut the elastics loose. With a wet toothbrush, I tame the hair and wait for it to dry.
Right, I got my half up, half down. Did I give Ariane? Did I give Arianka or no?
With a heated metal chopstick, I'm gonna curl the hair. So many ringlets. I trim the ends and separate the curls with my fingers to make the hair poofy and voluminous. Then I press down the parts with a heated metal tool. And we're done with the hair. It looks like I'm just remaking Madeline Heather. That's fine, I guess. Here's what the doll looks like compared to Howlin, which is a little sister. She is shorter than Howlin, but not by much. Was it worth doing all that body modification? Nope. But I don't regret doing it. Not really. Akin, why didn't you use Howlin as a base? Her skin tone is so much more natural, the paint wouldn't clash too badly on it. Don't talk to me about that.
I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to say a word.
Gotta be honest, I had clear ideas only up until the hair. For the outfit, I got nothing. So let's wing it. What about a white blouse? I don't think you can go wrong with a white blouse. Here's the pattern and I'm gonna sew lace on the front center for details. Sew the shoulder seams together to connect the front piece and the back pieces. Then we attach the sleeves. Here's a rare footage of me sewing. Take your time and use a small stitch length because sewing those sleeves is tricky. You gotta pivot the fabric a bunch of times so the sleeves match with the armholes. We got the sleeves attached. I added lace to the cuffs, but let's put this aside for now because we're gonna deal with the color. I snip around the outer edges and with a glue stick I glue down the seam allowance to the wrong side. I gave it a press and this is what it looks like. Here I'm top stitching the outer edges. Because the color piece is small, I'm sewing it on top of a piece of paper to stabilize it, otherwise the sewing machine would swallow it. See how nice the top stitching is? Now we can tear off the paper. Then I cut around the neck hole to reveal it but leave a seam allowance. Now we sew the collar around the neckline, good side on top of good side, not good sides facing each other. Snip around the neckline seam allowance and glue it down to the wrong side. I top stitched the neckline but underneath the collar like so. I also finished the opening tabs already. Now we can sew the side seams together. Don't you hate it when your sewing machine goes like it's sewing 7 layers of denim fabric when it's just 2 layers of cotton fabric and lace? Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you being so dramatic? Trim the seam allowance and turn it right side out. Hem the bottom part. And we're pretty much done with the blouse. We're gonna attach the snaps later. I really like it. I think the blouse looks really good. For the skirt, I cut out this rectangle out of light orange cotton fabric. The length is about 3 times the waist circumference and the width is actually the length of the skirt. I want to decorate it with some green lace. I got this one and I think it would look good as a trim. I got another one with tiny pom-poms. I think this one looks better along the bottom edge, not as a trim. Let's use this one. I made 2 rows of basting stitch within the seam allowance of the top edge and gathered the fabric to match the waist circumference. It should look something like this. For the top portion, I cut out this shape. It's gonna be like an overall. First, I'm gonna finish the edges the same way we did the collar. See how crisp the stitching looks? Get rid of the paper and sew it to the skirt portion. Now sew up the back seams but make sure to leave enough room for the butt. We're almost done with the sewing. Other things I sewed are a petticoat. It looks frumpy, I don't really know how to make a full voluminous petticoat, and a pair of white socks made out of rib knit material. Let's attach the snaps to the blouse. And add a small green bow. I really like the blouse, I think it's really cute. I already attached snaps to the back of the overalls, then I pull the straps to the back and mark where they should stop. Hand sew the straps according to the mark. Trim the excess. I added 3 small green beads to look like buttons and we're done with sewing. I don't know whose shoes these are, but they're really cute, like Mary Jane style. I cut off the straps cause I don't want them. These are normal size Monster High shoes so they fit over the socks. Then I apply 2 layers of white gesso. Then 4 layers of green acrylic paint. For protection, I apply 3 layers of watered down matte varnish to the shoes. The shoes are done, and with that we can call it a doll. I name her Maggie. So what do you think of her? Do you like her? Do you not like her? Let me know in the comments down below. Despite the process not being smooth sailing, I still like the end result. Nothing seems to be missing. You know, I was going to make her into like a magical girl, but I couldn't decide on the concept. With the way she turned out, I don't think she's Lolita either. She's kinda cottagecore. She looks like she's from a Harvest Moon game. Sorry, I mean Story of Seasons. The hairstyle is kinda out of place if I gotta be honest. The face up is fine, the body modification, well, it is what it is. I think my favorite part is the outfit. I really like it. This is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you want to. Happy holidays and see you next year. Bye!